My cat Freddie loves to be brushed and cuddled. But stirring up his cat allergens meant sneezing and itchy eyes. Then I found Purina One Live Clear. It's cat food that reduced the major allergen and my suffering in as little as 21 days. Now, we feel closer than ever. If you have issues with cat allergens, you really need to try Purina One Live Clear.
Try new Purina One Live Clear today. Purina One, a difference from day one.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam
on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me. Good morning. It is Wednesday, March 5th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Clouds this morning. Thunderstorms possible this afternoon. Going to be windy, too. High 54. Tonight and overnight, periods of rain, low 49. And then Thursday, it all clears out. Sun and clouds, high 52. If you are walking out the door with us right now, it is 34 and partly cloudy in Spring Valley up in Rockland County. 42 and cloudy in South Orange over in New Jersey. And it's 43 and cloudy right outside our Midtown studios.
The top 5 at 5.
Democrats try to disrupt President Trump's speech to the nation. How much will those tariffs cost the average American? Another frightening home invasion in New Jersey. A pink poodle takes cops and firefighters on a crazy chase. And say it ain't so. Another restaurant chain looks like it's about to go under. All right, let's get into it. Did you watch the president last night addressing the nation? It wasn't officially a State of the Union, but it kind of played out like one last night. President Trump says the American dream is surging. He opened his joint address to Congress last night saying America's momentum is back.
America's momentum is back.
I just said that.
Our spirit is back. Our pride is back. Our confidence is back.
He said the American dream bigger and better than ever before. He talked about a lot of things. Trump defended the use of his tariffs, which went into place at midnight yesterday against Mexico, Canada, and China.
Tariffs are not just about protecting American jobs. They're about protecting the soul of our country.
Trump says the tariffs will protect American workers, create more jobs.
Tariffs are about making America rich again and making America great again, and it's happening, and it will happen rather quickly. There'll be a little disturbance, but we're okay with that.
Now, he spoke directly to farmers when he was talking about these tariffs last night. They're the ones that are very worried that it could be hard to get their product to where it needs to go and product that needs to come in, and he talked about that.
Our farmers are going to have a field day right now, so to our farmers, have a lot of fun. I love you too. I love you too.
And the president last night talking about Ukraine and the Ukraine-Russia war during this joint session of Congress said millions of Ukrainians and Russians have needlessly been killed during the 3-year-long conflict there, and he wants to just see what he can do to bring an end to it.
It's time to stop this madness. It's time to halt the killing. It's time to end this senseless war. If you want to end wars, you have to talk to both sides.
A Democrat removed from President Trump's address to a joint session of Congress there last night. Texas Democrat Al Green refused to sit down during the speech. No, not that Al Green. It was this Al Green.
Continue to engage in willful and concerted disruption of proper decorum. The chair now directs the sergeant-at-arms to restore order. Remove this gentleman from the chamber.
Now, Republicans tried to drown him out by yelling USA, USA. House Speaker Mike Johnson warning Green that he needs to leave.
Mr. Green, take your seat. Take your seat, sir.
And then there was the response, of course, from the Democrats. They get their chance. Senator Alyssa Slotkin says Americans want change, but she says the change has come recklessly during the Trump administration.
But there's a responsible way to make change and a reckless way. And we can make that change without forgetting who we are as a country and as a democracy.
Tri-State's 3 Democratic governors responding to President Trump's address to the nation.
New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy said he was disappointed in the president's speech, saying the Trump administration has driven up costs for consumers. Connecticut Governor Ned Lamont focused on Trump's tariffs, saying the uncertainty is hurting business in New England. New York Governor Kathy Hochul said Trump, quote, failed to offer a single meaningful solution to the affordability crisis. Murphy and Lamont added they seek common ground on issues with the White House. Hochul did not. Andrew Whitman, NBC News Radio, New York.
Okay, the tariffs, big news. They were laid down on, today is Wednesday. Let's see if we can figure this out. No, Monday at midnight, so that was early Tuesday morning. There were 25% tariffs put on goods coming in from Canada and Mexico. China was up to 20%. It was 10%. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick says the U.S. has been ripped off too long by these nations, and he wants it to end. He notes that Canada has a 250% tariff on U.S. dairy products.
You know, Canada has a national sales tax. Another way to say it is a national tariff on our products.
Lutnick says enough of that, and he wants to reset the table when it comes to these three nations.
They import from us very little, and we export. And they export to us huge amounts. So the idea is that's going to be reset.
And he says when this is all over, the U.S. won't be no longer taking advantage.
Canada and Mexico had an invitation to trade with the amazing economy of the United States of America, and they have abused that invitation.
And what does this all mean to your wallet, to your pocketbook? It does seem, in the interim, and we don't know how long this is going to last, that prices will go up. Target's CEO is warning shoppers they may see increases in the next few days to goods from Mexico. We get this time of year, we get a lot of fruits and vegetables like grapes and stuff like that, those table grapes. They're almost all coming from Mexico. And so he says, prices and those kind of things definitely go up.
We're going to try to make sure we can do everything we can to protect pricing. But if there's a 25% tariff, those prices will go up.
Now, Canada launched those retaliatory tariffs at midnight as well. The Canadian Prime Minister Trudeau announcing an immediate 25% levy on $30 billion worth of U.S. imports.
Canadians are reasonable, and we are polite, but we will not back down from a fight. Even though you're a very smart guy, this is a very dumb thing to do.
He's talking about President Trump.
Canada will be implementing 25% tariffs against $155 billion worth of American goods.
And this was a wild moment yesterday through all this craziness. Ontario's premier, his name is Doug Ford, he was threatening now to cut off U.S. electricity exports over the current tariff war.
We will not hesitate to shut off their power as well.
Now, this is kind of a big deal because a report shows Ontario powered 1.5 million U.S. homes, mostly in New York, by the way.
If the Trump administration falls through on any more tariffs, we will immediately apply a 25% surcharge on the electricity we export.
Now, we knew the markets were not going to like this. It got hammered yesterday. Correspondent Brian Chung watched as the Dow fell at one point more than 700 points.
We've already seen some counteraction from other countries. Canada announcing that they would be doing 25% tariffs on $20 billion roughly of U.S. goods, with plans for another $80 billion to be covered by tariffs in a few weeks. There's an estimate from the Anderson Economic Group saying that in some cases, some automobiles could go up by more than $10,000 on the MSRP. And that's because we bring in so many parts from Mexico, and then we assemble a lot of these cars, even American companies, in Canada.
Yeah, so the Dow ended the day yesterday down 670 points. Markets were a little bit chaotic overnight, so we don't know what's in store for Wall Street. Of course, keep it here. We'll have the latest. 5:09, a new sight on the G line this week. Riders getting a chance now to experience the inaugural ride of the R211T. These are the gangway trains that are wide open. The entryways into the trains are wider as well. And the New York City Transit president, Demetrius Kriklo, said this is all good news for riders, these new trains on the G line.
Everyone that's taken the G train knows the experience of hustling down the platform to make that train. You get to the last car of the train, and then the train is just a little bit crowded at that one last car. No more.
Yeah, so these doors are wider, so that makes for faster boarding. You're not trying to, get by somebody. There are clearer displays on the trains of where you are. There's more cameras for security reasons. And normally, of course, subway riders like to complain, and, well, they do have a lot to complain about. But they were on these new G trains last night, and they weren't complaining.
Now you can move away and go to the first car if you want. Yeah, as it should be. It's fantastic. There are transit systems around the world that have these trains, and it's about time we had them.
Yeah, he's right.
It's It's nice. They're nice and bright.
It works. It's better.
It's definitely a nice new train. Probably going to prevent a lot of the issues that are currently going on with the trains with the surfing happening.
Yeah, so look at that. 4 riders and no complaints. They like the new G trains. Over in Rome, in Italy, Pope Francis apparently no longer needs that invasive breathing machine that he was put on after having respiratory problems earlier this week. Correspondent Ann Thompson, she is in Vatican City. She reports the pontiff had suffered these 2 attacks of acute respiratory failure, which was caused by a buildup of mucus in his lungs.
Doctors perform bronchoscopies after each incident. That is where they take a tube that has a camera on it, put it in the airwaves to clean out the mucus. A Vatican source says the Pope has no new infection, nor does he have a fever.
The Pope said to have remained alert and conscious during those procedures. He slept well overnight yesterday. We haven't gotten this morning's update yet.
Pope Francis no longer needs that non-invasive breathing machine after suffering 2 attacks of acute respiratory failure, where you rapidly lose your ability to breathe. That is caused by a buildup of mucus in the lungs that often people who suffer from pneumonia face. He remained alert and conscious through both of those procedures, but he will not be participating in tomorrow's Ash Wednesday services. He's just not well enough to do that. Today, his prognosis remains guarded.
All right, so that sounds better than it was 24 hours ago when they said things weren't so great. 512 down from Rome. Let's go all the way down to Texas. The deadly measles outbreak in Texas continues to grow. Nearly 1 in 3 patients being under the age of 4. It's affected, for the most part, this Mennonite community near Lubbock, Texas. Doctors say they're worried about not just kids getting measles, and of course we had 1 kid die last week from the measles, but they say those who survive measles sometimes face a lifetime of health problems. This is all part of their effort to beg people to get their kids vaccinated.
The inflammation that the measles virus causes throughout the body can infect the brain.
She's Dr. Sapna Singh. She's from the chief medical officer at Texas Children's Hospital. Her worst fear, she says, is a rare brain disorder that develops years after measles infections. And so she says that's a reason to get the shot. She also says she wants to salute President Trump's new health secretary, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who wrote an op-ed saying that these vaccines can protect kids and contribute to herd immunity.
And that can affect the brain enough that a child could suffer severe intellectual disability, and that's lifelong. We have children who develop deafness and are unable to hear because of the infection affecting their nerves.
Yeah, but in that Mennonite community, they're not used to taking these vaccines, but they're trying to convince members of that community to get the shot to bring down this, what is spread. It's more than 150 cases in that small little area of Texas. 5:14, let's go from Texas out to Los Angeles. The former L.A. Fire Chief Kristen Crowley got a chance to address the Los Angeles City Council yesterday after she was fired by the mayor. She said she wanted to set the record straight and maybe even get her job back.
We did not have enough apparatus to put them on. Because of the budget cuts and lack of investments in our fleet maintenance, over 100 of our fire engines, fire trucks, and ambulances sat broken down in our maintenance yards.
After action reports are a routine part of our job, and it's ridiculous to think that a historic fire of this magnitude wouldn't require a top-to-bottom review.
Okay, so the first person you heard was the former fire chief trying to defend herself, somebody from the city council there. So she finished, and then the Los Angeles City Council was up to them to vote whether to give former Chief Kristen Crowley her job back, and they voted 13-2 not to do so. Here was one of the council members who voted to give her job back.
Obviously, we're very disappointed. Chief Crowley was the Chief Crowley we all know. She was a true leader all the way to the end. She stated the facts. Our frustration is what was said of the reasonings why she was terminated.
And now there's an effort that's been launched aimed at a possible recall of the mayor of Los Angeles, Karen Bass.
Paperwork has been filed with the Los Angeles Ethics Committee, reportedly looking to form a fundraising committee to recall Bass. The Los Angeles Times reports the effort appears to be spearheaded by Republicans, with Bass's political strategist Douglas Herman calling it nothing more than a right-wing political stunt meant to further divide the city. Bass has been under fire for her absence at the start of the deadly Palisades and Eaton wildfires. I'm Jim Roop
WABC News Time, 5:15. Let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk. Happy Hump Day. Good morning, Justin Eller.
Happy Hump Day. Good morning to you, Noam Layden. Let's start with the NBA here at the Garden, where the Knicks fell 114 to 102 to the visiting Golden State Warriors. OG Anunoby had 29. Jalen Brunson had 25 for the Knicks, who had their 3-game winning streak snapped. They played without All-Star center Karl Anthony Towns, who was out for personal reasons. Coach Tom Thibodeau said before the game he didn't know if Towns would be with the team when it left for a 5-game trip.
What are the personal reasons, do we know?
No. But don't you think they would say? Don't you think,
I guess. When someone says that, I want to know what that is.
That'd be part of the disclosed information, wouldn't you think?
Like, what's going on? Something going on in the family? Or
you know what? Let me just give him will you give me a minute? I'll actually ring. Let me just call my good friend Karl Anthony Towns really quickly.
It's 2 a.m. there.
Yeah.
You might answer.
Yeah, sure. Let me reach out to him. Actually, I have his agent's number on my speed dial.
What a stupid question that is.
I thought it was a good question.
Okay, well, that's a thought you wasted.
Don't be rude.
You don't know if.
Don't be rude.
I guess we'll find out. No, I'll keep you posted on if he'll be traveling with the team to go up against the Lakers tomorrow. Down at San Antonio, the Nets lost as well by a score of 127 to 113 to the Spurs. Brooklyn lost its 5th straight, dropping 2.5 games out of 10th place in the East. Cam Thomas had 24 points to lead the Nets, and Cameron Johnson had 17. Coming up next for Brooklyn, they'll host the aforementioned Warriors tomorrow night. Sticking with the NBA for a second, 40-year-old superstar LeBron James became the NBA's first 50,000-point man last night. James came into the Lakers game against the New Orleans Pelicans needing a point to reach 50,000 combined points for his career in the regular season and postseason. He got that on his first attempt of the game, a nice little 3-pointer to the NHL.
If you had to guess what's going on with Karl Anthony Towns, what do you think it would be? Just like, if I forced you to guess, what do you think's happening?
I don't know, like a death in the family, maybe?
Well, wouldn't they say that?
Maybe they would say death in the family.
I don't know. Something's odd about that.
Okay. I don't. While I'm doing the rest of this, why don't you go out on the internet and see maybe if you could find some additional information that might be feeding this curiosity of yours.
Okay.
All right.
I just saw it.
Yeah. So you can
never mind.
So you can quit bothering me about it.
Wait, you know what it is?
No. I have no idea. I'm trying to save our jobs, basically.
I've got a big Saquon Barkley contract to get to, and you're really holding that up. I mean, this is. Come on now.
You're right. Go ahead. Sorry. Didn't mean to interrupt you.
That's all right. We will get to that offseason NFL news here. No, but we will start with Aaron Rodgers or not Aaron Rodgers, the Jets, I should say. 3 weeks after parting with quarterback Aaron Rodgers, they released his favorite wide receiver Devontae Adams yesterday. The Jets also have given permission to wide receiver Allen Lazard, another Rodgers favorite, to seek a trade before the start of the league year on March 12th. Sources revealed to ESPN. In all likelihood, he too will end up being released. The Jets are undoing what they did 2 years ago, essentially, when they went all in for Rodgers by acquiring some of his former Green Bay Packers teammates. And also, down I-95 out of Philadelphia, the Eagles are rewarding Saquon Barkley for his historic season with a 2-year, $41.2 million contract extension that makes him the highest-paid running back in NFL history. The deal, which includes $36 million guaranteed at signing, makes Barkley the NFL's first running back getting more than $20 million per year. He has the ability to earn an additional $15 million in incentives and escalators. So the Eagles there making sure they don't make the same mistake that Schoen and the Giants made just last offseason.
Very boring.
Yeah, very, very boring indeed. Not for me, though. That's your sports home. I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
Thank you very much, Justin. Traffic, transit now. I bet Joe Nolan's wondering what happened to Karl Anthony Towns.
Yeah, I know. I just looked online. I can't find it either.
No, right? Yeah, so it seems odd, right? If it was a death in the family, they would say it was a death in the family.
Yeah, who knows? Yeah. Maybe just didn't feel like playing.
I think that's probably it. WABC News Time 521. Let's go down to Washington. House GOP members are reportedly being urged to stop holding in-person town hall events. Maybe you've seen some of these videos that have gone viral of Congress people going back to their home districts and then being yelled at, screamed at these town hall meetings. Well, House Speaker Mike Johnson claims the GOP events have been taken over by far-left extremists.
Now, Democrat activists who don't live in the district very often will show up for these town hall events, and they'll go in an hour early and they'll fill all the seats. And so the constituents and the people from the community that are actually represented don't even get a seat.
There are multiple reports this morning that say the National Republican Congressional Committee chair, he's Richard Hudson, you probably don't know who he is, but he told members they can reach even more constituents by holding virtual town halls instead. Mike Johnson says the Democratic protesters are likely being paid to cause chaos.
Now, I'm not saying everyone in these, all the Democrats in these town halls that you've seen on television were not from the local area, but look, there are people who do this as a profession.
You know, Sonny Williams and Butch Wilmore, they're the astronauts that went to space last spring. They were supposed to be up there for about a week, just a little bit more, but then got stuck there because the rocket they were supposed to come back down on had some issues, and they didn't want to send them back home. So they've been up there since the spring. It's now 9 months they've been in space when they were only supposed to be there for a week. So there was a NASA press conference yesterday with Sonny Williams and Butch Wilmore, where they were told that they'll likely be coming home in the next week or so. But during that Q&A, they were asked about Elon Musk's claim that the Biden administration turned down a SpaceX offer to bring the astronauts home earlier than they're coming home now. So what do they think about that?
We have no information on that, though, whatsoever. What was offered, what was not offered, who it was offered to, how that process went.
Yeah, that's a good way to bat away a question. I imagine. Wouldn't you spend the entire time wondering why they hadn't got you down sooner? But Wilmore and Williams launched on this Boeing Starliner test flight back in June. They planned to stay at the station for a week, but their visit extended when NASA decided to bring the spacecraft back without them for safety reasons. Sonny Williams, of course, she's the woman, says the uncertainty has been very stressful for loved ones on the ground who thought they were only going to be gone for a week. Now it is 9 months later.
The hardest part is, having the folks on the ground have to not know exactly when we're coming back. Know, of course, that we are coming back with Crew 9.
Now, the date they've been throwing around the last couple hours is March 12th, which is 7 days away. Southwest, that would be the date they'd be able to come back home, I should say. Southwest Airlines is planning to close a pair of crew bases in its latest cost-cutting move.
According to a memo from its flight attendants union, the closures involve crew bases at Florida's Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport and Austin Bergstrom International in Texas. The memo said the closures will take effect on July 1st. Dallas-based Southwest has been slashing unprofitable routes and trimming corporate staff as part of its first-ever mass layoffs. I'm at Mattinson.
Let's go out to Los Angeles, where 30 Los Angeles County Detention Service officers facing criminal charges on suspicion that they were running a so-called gladiator fights at a juvenile detention hall. I mean, these people are really awful. This is true. Here's California Attorney General Rob Bonta.
The officers look more like referees or audience members at a prize fight, not adults charged with the care and supervision of young people.
The officers who all worked at this juvenile hall are named in this grand jury indictment. It says they allowed, in some cases, and even encouraged nearly 70 fights between teenagers at this facility between July and December of 2023.
A space and a time was created for the fights, and their plan was for the fights to happen and for them to stand by as they occurred and not intervene.
Yeah, I think that doesn't get any more awful than that.
Certainly, it seems consistent with what I discovered, which I believe to be an ongoing pattern of abuse and violence involving minors.
Yeah, they say these officers preyed upon these detainees, these teenagers at this juvenile hall.
These are children in their formative years. Those who were in a position of authority to care for them took advantage of their vulnerability.
Yeah, they think there was about 143 victims between the ages of 12 and 18 who were put up to fight in these gladiator fights. Federal investigation in the Karen Reed case is closed now, and no charges are going to be filed against police.
Reed is accused of hitting her boyfriend, Boston police officer John O'Keefe, with her SUV outside a house in Canton in January 2022 and leaving him to die in a snowstorm. Her defense has long maintained the 44-year-old Mansfield woman was framed and that other police officers were responsible for O'Keefe's death. Reed's first trial ended with a mistrial last July, and her second trial is scheduled to start April 1st. I'm Brian Shook.
It's
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam
on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me. Good morning. It is Wednesday, March 5th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Clouds this morning. Thunderstorms will roll in this afternoon. The high going to be 54. Tonight and overnight, periods of rain, low 49. And then Thursday, it all clears out. Sun, clouds, high 52. If you are walking out the door with us right now, so happy you are. 34, partly cloudy, Spring Valley up in Rockland County. It's 42 and cloudy in South Orange over in New Jersey. And it's 46 and cloudy right outside our Midtown studios. We'll start this half hour over in New Jersey, in the town of Edison. We've told you about all these terrifying home invasions that continue to happen in the Garden State, where you have these criminals showing up at homes purposely when people are home to try to get the fob to their high-end cars that are parked in the driveway. And that may have been what happened here in Edison over the weekend. This mom of a newborn or 10-month-old child, and she's pregnant with another one, is in her house when these creeps show up at her home over the weekend. Her fiancé is there, too. They hear the smashing of windows. Her fiancé goes downstairs to try to frighten these people away.
To watch and to relive. My stomach turns every time. They came in with no fear. I'm just hearing a lot of commotion downstairs, the dog barking, my fiance screaming, the men screaming.
Yeah, so it's frightening. These men, though, apparently, this is, I guess, a small bit of good news. They don't want to confront anybody. That seems very clear because the minute, apparently, you can see on the doorbell camera, they heard the noise of this family being woken up by them as they tried to break in, they raced away. So it seems like they don't want a confrontation with people in the home, so I guess that's good. But meanwhile, they left that home, and what police say they did next was they went and burglarized a home in Woodbridge and another one in Metuchen. They haven't been able to catch up with these guys. But this woman, of course, who's pregnant, 4 months pregnant, has a 10-month-old son, panicked by this moment. Who can blame her? And she's warning other homeowners to be vigilant.
Hopefully now families can see this and keep their loved ones safe, arm your homes, make sure that the alarms are on. Luckily, we're all safe and unharmed, so I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, that's the good news. WABC News Time 5:39. As you just heard from Joe, there's still continues to be problems on I-80 in Wharton, New Jersey, where they found those sinkholes. And now there are neighbors in a nearby building where they're doing the work to fix the problems with these sinkholes on I-80. And they say that the work being done by these construction crews may be the reason they're all of a sudden seeing cracks in their apartment building. Here's one of the people who lives in this building. It's called the Avalon Wharton.
This crack was here. This was the one that the mayor was notified about, and they came in and just did a quick spackle job on it. These are cracks that just started forming in the washroom. They are doing a lot of construction over there with jackhammers and drills that are going underground hundreds of feet from this building. And my concern is the vibrations from all of that construction could be affecting the structure of this building.
The Avalon Wharton apartments sit right along I-80, where the Department of Transportation crews are working on this deep void that's under the eastbound lanes of the highway after repairing 2 sinkholes in the same area. So is that connected to some cracks people are seeing in the building in this Avalon Wharton? Well, the neighbors there think so. The mayor of Wharton says he's not so sure, but the neighbors say they want to make sure that they're not all connected.
There's new cracks showing up every day, and you can't just call all of this a coincidence.
There's a lot of cracks, the wall separating from the bottom of the floor. I haven't slept. I'm looking for anxiety groups.
We're reaching out to the Avalon corporate company and no one's giving us answers. So it makes us very anxiety stricken every single night. We don't know if we're going to go to bed and not wake up.
Yeah, who can blame them? 5:41. Let's go up to the Bronx, Riverdale. A hit-and-run crash injured a 9-year-old girl yesterday. NYPD says it was 2 cars that collided. This was West 261st Street, right near Huxley Avenue. A child in one of the cars suffered a head injury. The good news is, thank God, he's expected to be okay. But the driver of the other car just fled his car. He actually left the car and then raced away from the scene.
Oh, my God, I didn't know that had happened.
Yeah, well, I just told you.
Everyone was going to school and on their way to work. Oh, that's so sad.
Yeah, so the child's mother was driving the car. The two drivers got out of the cars. Then one ran away and left this silver Honda Accord behind. Inside that silver Honda Accord, they found Shrek stickers, Spider-Man walkie-talkies, which suggests the other driver has kids, but left the scene of an accident where a kid was hurt, which is crazy.
Nothing like this has really happened before, so I'm hoping that the family is okay and the kid is okay.
And police telling us this Honda's license plate indicates it's a rental car from South Dakota, but so far they have not caught up with the individual who was driving. Always, if you're in an accident, always stay at the scene. It's much worse when you leave. Out to Suffolk County at 542, where they're trying to figure out what happened to a man whose body was found on the beach with stab wounds. This was in Blue Point. Someone who was walking in the sand found this body about 6:30 a.m. yesterday, and right near Blue Point Avenue.
Not something that ever really happens around here.
I am speechless. I'm speechless, honestly. I don't live in this town, but I work in the town. It's a very peaceful town. You don't hear about this type of stuff in Bayport, Blue Point.
Police telling us it is 27-year-old Carlos Lopez, who's from Central Islip, so they've ID'd him. They pronounced him dead at the scene. People who come to that beach often at Blue Point say they've never heard of anything like this happening there ever before.
They leave this open at night. It should be closed because a lot goes on down here, I think, After hours, it's kind of remote.
Police have not made any arrests. In fact, asking anybody who may have seen something happen on the beach at Blue Point to give them a holler. While we're out on Long Island, a multi-agency law enforcement team taking down a large car theft ring on Long Island. More than a dozen people charged yesterday, and more than 50 high-end car break-ins across Suffolk County that have taken place actually over the last 2 years now.
They would use real estate apps such as Zillow and Realtor. So they would go in the middle of the night, steal the credit cards, and then immediately go to the store to charge and use those cars before the victims knew what was going on.
They spent about $40,000, a fair amount of money. The indictment ties 52 car thefts and break-ins to 13 alleged members of a ring that calls itself the CC Boys. What does the CC stand for? It stands for car checking, so they kind of telephoned what they were up to. Apparently they made some mistakes, and that's why they were busted, but in the process they were able to get into cars that were unlocked, steal wallets. Sometimes they were able to steal the whole car because people left their fobs in the vehicle.
A car pulled up right at the base of the driveway, and guy came around, got into the car, backed the car up, and just took off with it.
Yeah, that's one of the victims. Here's more from the DA.
You can't outsmart law enforcement forever, no matter how hard you try. One of the biggest mistakes these criminals made was to use postal money orders.
Yeah, apparently that's how they busted them. 5:45. Let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk and Justin Ellick.
Thank you, Noam Layden. Start here with the NBA at the Garden. The Knicks fell 114-102 to the visiting Golden State Warriors. OG Anunoby scored 29. Jalen Brunson had 25 for the Knicks, who had their three-game winning streak snapped. They played without all-star center Karl Anthony Towns, who was out for personal reasons. And don't ask again, no, because I still don't know why he was absent. Coach Tom Thibodeau said before the game he didn't know if Towns would be with the team when it left for a 5-game trip that starts tomorrow against the Lakers down in San Antonio. The Nets lost as well by a score of 127-113 to the Spurs. Brooklyn lost its fifth straight, dropping 2.5 games out of 10th place in the Eastern Conference. Cam Thomas had 24 points to lead the Nets, and Cameron Johnson added 17. Coming up next for Brooklyn, they'll host the aforementioned Warriors tomorrow night. Sticking with the NBA for a second, 40-year-old superstar LeBron James became the NBA's first 50,000-point man last night. James came into the Lakers game against the Pelicans, needing a point to reach 50,000 combined points for his career in the regular season and postseason, and he reached that mark on his first attempt of the night, a three-pointer. To the NHL and the ice we go. Starting in Elmont, Brock Nelson had a goal and an assist, and the Islanders took down the NHL-leading Winnipeg Jets 3-2. Palmieri and Pulak also scored. Sorokin finished with 27. saves for New York in its final game before the NHL trade deadline and a 3-game West Coast road trip. The Isles will look probably a little bit different following the trade deadline. Up next for them, they're off until Saturday when they're set to visit the Sharks in San Jose. In Dallas, the Devils came up short against the Stars. The final score 4-3. Up next for them, they get the aforementioned Jets at home on Friday. And looking ahead to local ice hockey action tonight, the Rangers will be back out there at MSG to host the Washington Capitals at 7:30. And lastly, let's get some off-season news out of the NFL. 3 weeks after parting with quarterback Aaron Rodgers, the New York Jets released his favorite wide receiver, Davante Adams, yesterday. They've also given permission to wide receiver Allen Lazard, another Rodgers favorite, to seek a trade before the start of the league year on March 12th. In all likelihood, he, too, will end up being released. The Jets are undoing, of course, what they did 2 years ago when they went all in for Rodgers by acquiring some of his former Green Bay Packers teammates. Also, down I-95 out of Philadelphia.
Aren't the Giants number one now to get Aaron Rodgers?
I believe they are. That's the rumor mill, if you will, Noam.
So distressing. Like, that's looking forward, getting Aaron Rodgers.
Well,
like,
I mean, listen, logistically, if you look at it, it's not a terrible idea.
Look,
you bring him in, you draft a young quarterback.
He had a terrible season last year.
No, he did not have a terrible season last year. He had plenty of very solid games.
The Jets were awful last year.
But he wasn't really the reason they were awful. You know, obviously.
Well, I don't want him to be a Giant. Find somebody else.
Okay, well, that's your humble opinion.
Yeah.
I don't think that the Mara and Tisch families are really going to be listening to you.
Well, I think the Mara family's waiting for Eli's nephew to graduate college
next
year,
year,
and they're going to draft him.
That's next
year. So maybe it's 1 year of Aaron Rodgers, and then we get, what's his name? I forget. Manning.
Arch
Manning. That's right.
Yeah. But, I mean, this Cam Ward kid is really solid, man, out of Miami.
Yeah.
You bring him in, learns under Rodgers for a year. I don't really see the downside in that, to be completely honest with you. The guy's still Aaron Rodgers.
This is coming from an Eagles fan, though.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Okay. Well, speaking of those Eagles, they paid their best player yesterday, rewarded Saquon Barkley for his historic season, 2-year, $41.2 million contract extension, and it makes him the highest-paid running back in NFL history. That is your Sports Dome, and I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 5:50. Let's go up to Albany, where Governor Hochul says farmers across New York State concerned about the price increases from the tariffs laid down yesterday. She says 40% of agriculture products made in New York are exported to other nations.
And China's already announced a 10% tariff on fruits and dairy, which they do get from New York. This is going to really hurt their margins, make it more difficult for them.
The governor happened to be holding a roundtable discussion with farmers and agriculture leaders in the state the same day that Mexico and Canada launched retaliatory tariffs against them.
They're anxious. I mean, they've got a lot of stress in their lives already, and this is just one more layer that they didn't need to have. And the uncertainty.
She says farmers are already getting hit hard because they get a lot of goods from Canada.
They already got the notice the prices going up for the wood shavings, and the energy costs are going to go up because we get a lot of our energy from Canada.
5:51, let's bring it back here into the city. In delivering her State of the City address, New York City Council Speaker Adrienne Adams seems to be moving closer to jumping into the crowded race for mayor. I think that would make it 9 Democrats. Maybe it's 10 by the time she jumps in. She, by the way, no relation to Eric Adams. Her speech yesterday championed maternal health and housing, among some other accomplishments.
New York City is bigger than one person, and our city deserves leadership that prioritizes its people over individual glory or interests.
Now, what we're being told is Adams is expected to decide on that mayoral run in the coming days. My guess is she's probably decided one way or another already.
The Trump administration's cruel crusade against immigrant families within a nation of immigrants is threatening our democratic values.
Public advocate Jumaane Williams, he was there for the State of the City yesterday. He says he's looking forward to Adrienne Adams jumping into the race.
I was really excited about the speech. She sounds like someone who really knows how to lead a city. So I think that's what we needed at the time, and I'm very excited about anything she's going to announce in the coming days.
Remember that star high school wrestler we told you about who was briefly disqualified from last week's state championship, New Jersey, because he got into a brawl after a match in Collingswood, New Jersey. What had happened, he had fought in a match. His name is Anthony Knox Jr. Anthony Knox Jr. was on the mat. He's a championship wrestler, considered one of the best wrestlers actually in the nation. And when he finished his match, he saw that some people were surrounding his mother and father, yelling slurs and looking to start a fight. So he raced into the crowd to help them. And in the process, the state sports authority tried to suspend him and not let him wrestle ever again because he made that move. Well, he hired a lawyer, and they were able to fight that with the New Jersey Sports Authority, the high school sports authority, and he was able to wrestle last weekend again, and he won. And now this weekend, he's up for the state championship. He's a senior, and it looks like he'd probably win in this match. That's how good he is. But now he's facing a charge from one of the people who he got into the fight with in this brawl. Now he's facing, legal charges from the person that apparently he punched. And so now it's back to the State High School Sports Authority, which is going to try to disqualify him from taking part in this championship match next weekend. Now, again, he raced into the stands to help his parents, who he said were surrounded by people he thought were going to harm them. And in the process, apparently he allegedly punched someone, and that's where some of these charges are coming from. He is overwhelmingly the favorite to win his fourth straight state championship. And again, he's going to have to fight to even be part of that battle because of these charges. So it'll be interesting to see what happens over the next 24 hours or so. But boy, Anthony Knox Jr., who is, I think, did the right thing by going into the crowd and trying to defend his mom and dad from these people who surrounded them, may not be able to fight in the championship match. And what an awful thing to do to a senior who's in his last high school match of his career, to rip that out of his hands. Now, he's going to be a college-level wrestler next year, and no doubt will probably be a champion there, but just seems like the wrong thing to do. Red Robin can be added to the growing list of restaurants that are shuttering multiple locations. They announced yesterday they're closing about 70 underperforming locations as the burger chain attempts to repay all kinds of debt. The company expects to close just over a dozen restaurants this year when their leases expire. There's lots of people in New Jersey where some of these locations could be shut down or upset. Now, I'll play them first.
Kind of sad that these stores are closing. This is our go-to store, go-to spot for Red Robin when we're at work and at school.
Now, wasn't it Red Robin that had never-ending French fries? Right, do you remember when Red Lobster went out of business? They had done never-ending shrimp. Maybe that's what sunk them. I mean, there was a really thought that may have been the reason they had to close down. I don't know that French fries cost as much money as shrimp. But, of course, it adds to the list. Denny's announced it would be closing more of its low-performing locations than originally anticipated. So some of these big chains continue to shut down. And we'll end with this story out of Garfield, New Jersey. Yesterday, cops racing around trying to save a small pink poodle that had jumped in the Passaic River. It got a call, the police and the firefighters, around 4:15, that this pink poodle was running loose. It's, tiny little thing, 7 pounds. It had wiggled free from its leash, and people had seen it all across Garfield. But then the dog jumped into the Passaic River. Rescuers say she was fast, and they had a hard time catching up with her.
7 pounds and fast. It was like chasing cotton candy. She took off for us for a good hour, up and down the riverbank.
She gave us a swim for our money. She was a bike ride away from a triathlon.
So she swam the length of a football field before she made her way onto the small island. Police decided to call the fire department. They launched 2 boats to navigate the river, and then eventually they were able to get hold of this pink poodle whose name is Molly.
We were preparing for the worst, but we were so hopeful.
A member of Clifton Ladder 3 using thermal imaging camera was able to locate the dog.
Yeah, so I should point out the reason it was pink is the owners dyed it pink. Now they say they use some sort of thing that doesn't hurt the dog. The owner, very thankful to the firefighters in Garfield and Passaic County, the police there for catching up with her pink poodle who went for a swim in the Passaic River.
So the color did help. It's a plant-based vegan pet dye. Huge big thank you to the Garfield Police Station, the rescue team. They went beyond.
They did. Excellent job done by them.